Hi, I'm DKWILL. This is DKWILL Talk About, and just what does it take to be in the top 10% of XRP holders? Most people are interested in that. 6 months ago, it took about $6,000. What's a realistic price once you know how many it takes? What's a realistic price by 2030? It sounds like a far off, but it's less than 4 years away. And then, of course, an ongoing topic, the Clarity Act, the exhibition fight. This article covers two potential scenarios. It says two scenarios as if it's conclusive. I don't think it's conclusive, but we're going to talk about it.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right.
And I hope the mic does sound right. Once again, hi, I'm DK Will. Well, you want to be in the top 10% of XRP holders? 6 months ago, getting on the top 10% would cost you $6,000. Guess what? It's a Kmart special because today the same spot costs closer to $3,000. The entry price has been cut in half, and the reason is not good news for existing holders. We'll be the judge of that. It says it's a market in free fall, and I will say that I talked to a young gentleman who is extremely intelligent, and he's an analyst for, I think, State Street, one of the, background analyst, not a financial advisor, and he had all kinds of charts and technical analysis, and he forecasted that he saw XRP is going to drop to 60 cents, and he said he's never been wrong. Well, if XRP drops to 60 cents, I'm backing up the truck, the boat, the house, the car. I don't know. Just about everything. XRP has fallen roughly 50% since the final quarter of 2025, caught up in a broader crypto market sell-off that has wiped out $1.4 trillion in total market value. Now, here's where I'm jumping in because this is DK. We'll talk about it. I'm not going to just keep reading about it, but here's the thing. I have shown plenty of videos to not just convince you, but prove to you that the financial institutions are trying to shake us out of the crypto market. They're trying to force crypto into the traditional systems that they're able to manage, and not just the traditional systems, the traditional mindset that they should control the money. And that's what this is all about, money control. And that's where it's going to eventually end, money control. And for them to control your money, they're going to kick you out. They're going to do the same way they do with your paychecks now and force you to deposit them. They're going to control you with a button, whether you can buy or sell. It's going to be a fulfillment of Bible prophecy. But in the meantime, what does it take to be in the top 10% of XRP? And if you like the content I'm providing, please make sure to like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications. And then come back for more DK Will Talk About It. In a nutshell, according to the latest percentile distribution data, holding at least 2,208 XRP is now enough to place you in the top 10% of all XRP wallets. That translates to roughly $3,000 at current prices, down from $6,000 when XRP was trading at its Q4 2025 highs. Now, here's the thing about it. A lot of people hold more than one wallet. That's a fact, Jack. But that still doesn't change the fact that 90% of those wallets hold 2,207 XRP or less. The data shows just how concentrated wealth remains at the top. The top 1% each hold at least 45,846 XRP. Are you anywhere close to that? Because if you are, you're in a special crowd. I know people who are close to that. While the top 0.01%, only 774 wallets, each hold more than 3.8 million XRP. In other words, a tiny group of wallets controls an enormous share of the supply, just like I said. Now, as we go on today in our video, we'll hear about institutions having confidence in the Clarity Act and all that. That's a bunch of hogwash. Who do you think owns some of these 774 wallets? Well, I did a video about it. Look for the cards up in the right-hand corner. But like I said, there's more wallets than there are holders. Total XRP wallet numbers have continued to grow. The number of addresses qualifying for the top 10% bracket has risen to 773,594. So roughly 1,000 times the other top 0.01%, suggesting that new investors are entering the market and accumulating even as the prices fall. I applaud you if you are accumulating even as the prices fall. It is a pattern often seen during bear markets where retail buyers step in while large players remain cautious. That's a lie. That's a lie. In bear markets, retail buyers run for the win, and the smart players go in and they scoop it up, and that's what they're doing. That's why they call them accumulation phases. The drop in entry price is a double edged sword. On one hand, it shows genuine pain for long term holders who have watched their portfolios shrink significantly over 6 months. Ain't that the truth? On the other hand, it marks one of the more accessible entry points for XRP in recent memory. Whether this accumulation phase eventually leads to a recovery or whether further downside lies ahead remains the key question for the XRP community heading into the second half of 2026. Okay, we've been here before. XRP has been beaten up forever. I'll talk about it more as this video goes on. The way it's going now, looks like it's going to be a pretty long video. I hope you stay, I hope you like, and I hope you subscribe. Because now we're going to talk about the XRP price prediction. How high can XRP realistically go by 2030? And analyst predictions for XRP price by 2030 range from $5 to $28. So do you care that it's $1.33 or whatever it is right now? What would you do at 60 cents if you thought it was going to go to $5 to $28? I know what I would do. With the consensus clustering between $5 and $15, representing 250% to 940% upside from $1.45. At $5, XRP's market cap would match Ethereum's 2021 peak. At 15, it would be the largest altcoin in history, requiring 8 to 10 trillion total crypto market. Our conservative prediction puts XRP between $5 and $8 by 2030, with 10 to 15 achievable if Ripple captures 2% or more of SWIFT's cross-border corridors and the Clarity Act passes. Okay, here's a fact, Jack. Brad Garlinghouse said almost a year ago, and it was confirmed by Swift. I have videos about it. There'll be cards in the video. I'll put what I think are the best selections, but nonetheless, he said that they will get 15% of Swift's cross-border corridors. And guess what? While they were saying it, there was a period of time where about 14 or 15% of Swift's volume disappeared. Test run, maybe? It's in one of my videos. Just put in the word Swift and go find them. Most XRP price predictions for 2030 fall somewhere between $5 and $27, with a few outliers stretching past $100. At $1.45 today, even the conservative end of the range is a 250% return over 4 years, and the bullish end would make XRP one of the most valuable assets in all of crypto. What separates those targets is how much of the $150 trillion global cross-border payments market Ripple can realistically capture by the end of the decade. Here it is. Ripple's CEO has targeted 14% of that, but the company's on-demand liquidity network handled roughly 15 billion in 2024. This is nowhere close to the 21 trillion per year that the target implies. That's because they're building the infrastructure. Now, for the sake of time, we can't continue to cover this entire article, but we have learned that conservative forecasts range anywhere from $4 to $6, $5 to $15, even as high as $28. The middle of the pack sits around $10 to $15, and the most aggressive targets from institutional analysts like Standard Chartered reach $28. Now, Standard Chartered came down from $8 recently. Now it looks like when they're looking further forecasting, they're way up at $28. An ex-Goldman Sachs analyst even called for $1,000. I do not think that's outrageous. The XRP prices consensus from most forecasters clusters between $5 and $15. Would you care in 3.5 years if you put $1.40 in something and when you went to go take it out, it was $5 to $15? Because remember, like I tell my viewers, nobody loses any money and nobody makes any money until somebody sells something. So what I see here is an effort to get folks to jump on the XRP train ahead of a dip. And I think what the dip's going to do is going to scare a lot of people who are skittish and don't really have any belief system that this is an extremely valuable asset to invest in. And so by doing that, what they're going to do is they're going to create more liquidity to pay the people who hang in there or who buy during the accumulation phase, like they're going to do, while they're pumping your head full of hogwash and giving you an exhibition fight called the Clarity Act. It's an exhibition. Notice the terminology. It holds near $1.33 as the Clarity Act looms, and it faces a binary outcome, and it awaits U.S. crypto regulations as banks and institutions signal entry only after legal clarity boosts market confidence. Now, I want to remind everybody of the SEC debacle, which was the last distraction and the last show where they were trying to shake retail out before a major price move. This is the same playbook, and they're trying to boost your ego about what's going to happen after the Legal Clarity Act passes, and they're going to do the opposite to continue to flush out retail. Banks are waiting on clear rules. No, the banks are getting ready to go into the stablecoin business, like I said in my prior business. But before they do that, they want to use the market structure, the Market Clarity Act, to make sure that they don't have to pay us the way the crypto exchanges have been paying us. They're trying to beat the crypto exchanges into submission the same way they try and have been trying to beat Ripple into submission to not totally disrupt the entire monetary system, or at least not too fast. But what are those two diverging paths for the XRP price ahead of the Clarity Act of 2026? Why would they say the Clarity Act of 2026 if it's not going to pass? Why wouldn't they say the Clarity Act of 2027 or the Clarity Act? You follow me? But if it passes, analysts expect a significant shift in institutional behavior. Regulatory clarity would remove one of the biggest barriers to entry for hedge funds, pension funds, and asset managers. Then why are we hearing all that noise about exchange traded funds? Who's investing in those exchange traded funds besides asset managers? But yes, there is a ton of money in pension funds and a ton of money in hedge funds. And I have videos about that too, about some of the risk we regular people face because they manage our money that way. They play in the funds and they hand you prospectuses at your job for you to choose the funds you want to play with based on your risk tolerance. And then they play with the money and they turn the money around to make money. You would be amazed the amount of money that moves around. And just because we're talking in trillions in these articles should bring your attention to the fact that there is a lot of money out there. They just don't want us to be making it. They could easily pay us the way some of the exchanges have been paying us. They can easily pay higher. But before the Clarity Act passes, they got to get it under control so that they're not obligated to do so. And if they are successful, that's going to force the exchanges to stop paying as well, and the exchanges will be able to hide behind it's the law, we're sorry we can't. And then yeah, there'll have to be some creativity to pay people and to attract customers, but it will remove the obligation of them paying you for just letting your money sit there. But they don't want your money to sit there in the first place. They want you to keep this machine burning and churning by spending and moving your money. That's where they're heading. That's where money is heading. And I guess if AI takes over and you ain't got a job, you might as well be out there spending money. And that money might be called universal basic income. And that way they can control your money because they gave it to you. But they say there's a decisive window for Ripple ahead, increasing signs that progress is being made. The Clarity Act is close to being finished, and Ripple leaders are optimistic it will be resolved soon. If it moves forward by late spring, the next few weeks could be very important. If passed, the law could bring more institutional money, at least they said more institutional money, bank involvement, and new financial products. Bank involvement, just like I'm saying, they're coming. They're already here, many of them, but watch the fight. Watch the exhibition fight. New financial products to XRP. If not, XRP may continue to follow the broader crypto market without a strong push higher. Either way, the next 2 months, they give you a timeline, could be crucial for XRP's future. Well, I guess time will tell. But in the meantime, you might be in the top 10% of XRP if you hold 2,208 XRP. And if you are holding 2,208 XRP, they're expecting prices that range from $5 to $15. So that makes the current prices seem like a pretty good buy right now, doesn't it? And it is. But if it dips down to 60 cents, like the young man told me, don't be scared, just buy more or just sit still, get your gorilla grip. Because one thing is absolutely certain. The entire monetary system is turning to blockchain technology, and the XRP ledger and on-demand liquidity and XRP are a major part of it. So, how much XRP do you hold? Are you in the top 10%? If so, stay there. I'm DK Will. This is DK Will Talk About It. And I talked about it.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right.